All right, here we go, launching into another brand new episode of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board as we go through the most important issues of the day. And look, this is a trigger warning. This program can result in extended periods of American pride and optimism and uncontrollable enthusiasm in America's future. We're kicking off the live broadcast day like every day on Real America's Voice and MTN. We are reaching a growing global audience. It's the Steve Gruber Show. It's a no panic zone, so get it together. Here we go. 3 big things to know this hour. Number 1. An FBI investigation zeroing in on 3 separate COVID cover-up plots to keep everything secret and you in the dark. Number 2, the Islamic terrorist from Egypt that set Jewish protesters on fire over the weekend, facing both state and federal charges. And sadly, it's just a warning of what is to come. It's going to get worse, folks, because we left the borders open. Thank you, Joe Biden. And number 3, the national debt is still looming, almost $37 trillion. And counting. We're still talking about it, about the messed up priorities of the Democrats who got us here and the Republicans who need to grow a pair and fix it. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson with the problem. Listen.
In this situation overnight, Kristen, it took us decades, many decades of Congress's, frankly, mismanagement of the public fisc to get in this situation. And the last 4 years, the Biden administration increased spending dramatically. So it's going to take us a while to get out of it. We can't flip a magic switch and reverse it overnight.
Much of that increased spending, as we already know, went to taking care of people who aren't even supposed to be here, not Americans. All the fraud that Elon Musk discovered in USAID, for example. Also, all the money that went to people who came across the border illegally. All of that money. Democrat mayors have really screwed the pooch on this one and more. Here's more. Listen.
Mayor Johnson, in the last 4 years, how much has Chicago spent on care for illegal aliens?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So since 2022, since the governor of Texas began shipping.
Just tell me a number. I don't need a speech. Just tell me a number.
So since 2022, since the governor of Texas was shipping individuals to cities across this country, the city's budget, roughly 1% of the city's budget over the course of 4 years.
Mayor Johnston, the same question, and I don't need a speech, just a number.
Thank you, Dr. Congresswoman. Thank you, Congresswoman. It's $79 million over the last 2.5 years.
Mayor Adams, same question. How much has New York spent to care for illegal aliens?
Approximately $6.9 billion went out of our taxpayers' funds.
Mayor Wu, same question. How much has Boston spent to care for illegal aliens in the last 4 years?
We do not ask about immigration status and giving city services and providing that access, so we do not have a number.
Boston doesn't even have a number. Doesn't even know what they've spent. Doesn't even know what they've stuck the taxpayers with, and I can assure you, that's intentional. They don't want their legal residents, Americans, actual Americans, knowing how much money could have been spent on improving their community, fixing their city. And don't let Mayor Johnson's glib 1% answer fool you. That amounts to roughly $625 million over that time. The actual costs are likely much higher, as this figure doesn't include all the aspects of migrant services, such as the cost of moving migrants out of the city or cleaning up after homicides and sexual assaults. The Democrat Party seems hell-bent on the destruction of our nation, don't they? They want you and I to foot the bill for men like Mohammed Suleiman, a Muslim terrorist in the United States illegally, who just set innocent children and elderly on fire in Boulder, Colorado, and yelling, "Free Palestine." This is who ICE is trying to prevent guys like that from terrorizing our citizens. And Democrat mayors are actively working against law enforcement every step of the way. How about this example? Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania Mayor Dante Comins, who says he's warning illegal migrants in his city about ICE operations so that they don't get caught. Listen.
Wilkinsburg Mayor Dante Coleman's posted about it on his Facebook page.
Everyone here is, we're family, we're Wilkinsburg, and we just want to protect each other. We have ordinances that protect everyone, no matter what part of life you're from.
What do you say to people who say you shouldn't be here illegally?
That's how this country started. You got to start, it's all about getting that path to being a resident.
Please.
And I feel like we need to help them.
These guys see themselves as some kind of social justice warriors. The same with Nashville's Mayor Freddie O'Connell, who made this public statement after ICE arrested illegal aliens swarming in his city. Listen.
Everything in my power consistent with applicable law to protect anyone who calls Nashville home. What's clear today is that people who do not share our values of safety and community have the authority to cause deep community harm. We're still working to determine more about what happened over the weekend, but what we know right now, based on public statements, is that state and federal officials coordinated without us to engage in traffic enforcement actions clearly intended to target immigration concerns.
He also publicized the operations of ICE online. At a time when our ICE officers are facing a 413% increase in assaults, he made the names of these agents public to criminal illegal aliens. He doxed them, including gang members. He doxed the ICE agents to publicize their names to people, including gang members, and he did it online. This is what Elon Musk came to fix, the upside-down priorities of our government, many of which have to do with helping people who shouldn't be here in the first place. Here's Musk talking about Social Security and Medicare as tools being used for that purpose. Listen.
Which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate. Is that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here and then turning them into voters.
Yes.
So this is why the Democrats are so upset about the situation, because they're losing, if we turn off this gigantic money magnet for illegal immigrants, then they will leave and they'll lose voters.
Turn off that money magnet. You have to. So I ask again, where is the bill, my friends in the Republican Party? Where is the bill to codify DOGE cuts? Where's the legislation to slash the bloated budgets of agencies nobody even knows exist? Brandon Gill tells Fox News that he's concerned the national debt as we are. He says it. Listen.
There's a widespread recognition in the Republican Party and amongst very intelligent people like Elon Musk that our current national debt is catastrophic, that this could put our country on a very, very dark path. We've seen indications from the bond market that we've got to reduce spending. We're running $2 trillion deficits every single year. We've got a $37 trillion debt. We've got the opportunity to take a big chunk of that out with this reconciliation bill. Now, we've got $1.6 trillion in spending reductions. That's mandatory spending reductions, the biggest in American history here. But there's more that we can do. We can roll back more of the Green New Deal. I think we can be less aggressive with the SALT cap.
I need to see this to believe any of this. That's all nice and fine and well, but do something. We'll have more after the break. Welcome to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show, getting rolling on a brand new day. Like I said before the break, when it comes to cutting spending, I need to see it to believe it, because look, they've been telling me this my whole life. Oh, we're going to cut spending. We're going to trim back. We're going to, it's not just Democrats. Republicans like to blame Democrats for spending, but they're just as complicit. Just as complicit. Here they are with the majority in the House. Where are the codification of Doge? Where are the bills to implement Doge cuts permanently? The Department of Education, the EPA, the endless alphabet soup of bureaucracies, they're all still there, sucking up our tax dollars like a giant vacuum cleaner on steroids. Maybe you don't like to hear this kind of criticism. Maybe you don't. But I'm telling you, this is what separates us from the Democrats. They were more than happy to hold their tongue and bury their head in the sand while their fearless leader, Sleepy Joe Biden, abdicated his responsibility to liberal White House staffers because he couldn't remember which planet he was on. But not us. If we want something to change, we've got to call it out. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the GOP is all bad. Some are screaming from the rooftops about this debt crisis, about the need to cut spending. But they're drowned out by the rhinos, the spineless moderates who'd rather play nice with the Democrats than fight for us. These establishment types love to talk about bipartisanship while our country goes broke. Bipartisanship? How about bipartisanship in bankruptcy court? Because that's where we're headed if we don't get serious about this. We're expecting that rescissions package on Capitol Hill, maybe as early as today, to cut over $9 billion, mostly from USAID. The House says it's fired up about passing it through. Here's Speaker Johnson explaining why this has to happen. Listen.
Doge was looking at discretionary savings. There are two categories of federal spending. One is mandatory spending. One is discretionary. The reconciliation package is dealing with the first category, not the latter. So that it was not possible, literally under the rules of the Senate, for us to put Doge cuts in large measure in the reconciliation package. So that means it has to be a separate instrument. The way it works is that the White House sends to us a rescissions package, rescinding, basically clawing back money that Congress had already appropriated but was misspent in a number of ways. We've been waiting on those calculations. It took a while to do it. Remember, I mean, there was no playbook for what Elon Musk and Doge were doing. They didn't have a set of procedures to follow. They had to create them as they went. So they had to qualify and then quantify, and now we're ready to codify the changes. So I'm heartened to know that on Tuesday of this next week, the White House will send us the first of what we believe will be several rescissions packages, and this one everybody's heard by now is more than $9 billion, and it goes after some of the fraud, waste, and abuse.
It's
and
$9 billion. It's a token. I'll give you a tip, Mr. Speaker, and your entire party. Spend more time figuring out how to get it down than explaining why you can't. And in the meantime, the White House needs to get cracking on these rescission packages, too. One $9 billion Band-Aid isn't going to fix anything. I'm telling you, folks, this was our shot. Musk wasn't just some billionaire with a big mouth. He was a symbol of what could have been. A private sector genius wanting to take on the swamp, but without a Republican Party wanting to codify these cuts to make Doge a permanent fixture, we're back where we started. A nation buried under almost $37 trillion in debt, no end in sight. We've become a country that spends money we don't have on programs we don't need for people we don't like, while our infrastructure crumbles, our borders stay open, and our kids inherit a future where they'll be working just to pay off the interest on our mistakes. So what's it going to take? What's it going to take? How many more trillion do we need to owe before the GOP grows a spine and a pair? How many more chances do we get before China calls in our loans and we're eating rice and beans in a Beijing-owned America? The GOP needs to wake up. They need to codify Doge, make those cuts permanent, and stop treating the budget like a bottomless piggy bank. We elected them to fight, not to fold. We gave them the House, the Senate, the White House, and they're acting like they're playing defense. Enough is enough. It's time to hold their feet to the fire. Call your representatives. Flood their inboxes. Show up at town halls. Demand they cut spending. Codify Doge. Start treating our $36 trillion debt like the crisis that it is, because it is. Because if they don't, if they keep kicking the can down the road, then Elon Musk's departure might be the final nail in the coffin of our chance to save this country from financial ruin. We can't afford to wait for another savior. The time to act is now. Let's make America solvent again. How about that for an idea? How about we make America solvent and great again? Are you frustrated by the gridlock in Washington, like we've been talking about? Wondering why Congress just can't get anything done, nothing at all? There is a way to understand more and how we got here and what can be done about it. Hillsdale College presents a free online course, Congress, How It Worked and Why It Doesn't. It's taught by Hillsdale's own Dr. Kevin Porteous. This course reveals the original purpose of Congress, how the founders designed it to work, and why today's dysfunction is not an accident. You'll explore key moments in American history, the role of partisanship, and how changes in rules, incentives, and culture have reshaped our legislature for better and for worse. And the best part, it's free. No tuition, no strings attached. It's free. Join thousands of Americans just like you who've taken the course to become informed, empowered citizens. It's one of 40 free online courses at Hillsdale. You can enroll today at gruberforhillsdale.com and start watching immediately. That's gruberforhillsdale.com. Click on the catalog to find this course and dozens more. Join me and rediscover the promise of representative government with Hillsdale College. It's time to be educated, folks. We can't just sit here and let them burn the place down. Gruberforhillsdale.com. All right, gruberforhillsdale.com. I'll be taking a break, getting some more coffee. 1775 coffee, in fact. I'll be right back. A lot of great news sources out there. There's some that I trust. JustTheNews.com is one that I trust and go to often. An operation run by John Solomon, right? Maybe the best living investigative journalist, maybe just journalist in general, working today. The FBI's investigation on COVID cover-up zeroing in on 3 separate plots. A sprawling FBI investigation into possible criminal cover-ups during the COVID-19 pandemic, zeroing in on 3 separate plots involving the origins of the virus, the hiding and destruction of federal records, and the manipulation of the vaccine approval process and subsequent side effects. Agents in at least 3 cities, Cleveland, New York, and Baltimore, working quickly on the investigation. It was given a legal springboard in a major court ruling holding that China concealed the origins of COVID-19, as well as recent information uncovered by Congress. It's a big deal. The existence of the sprawling investigation made public last week by FBI's Deputy Director Dan Bongino, who described the probe generally in a social media post. As we read and process reports of a new COVID strain emerging, I want you to know that we're actively investigating in multiple field offices the cover-up of the origin of the COVID virus, along with associated matters requiring our attention. You deserve answers. Yes. Yes, we do, Dan. You're exactly right. We do deserve answers. And we'll have more on this. We'll be covering this closely. You can find out more at justthenews.com. In the meantime, while corrupt elites got rich off crypto, hardworking American patriots were left behind, but not anymore. Block Trust IRA is changing that, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans like you and me. With crypto fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle, now is your chance to join the movement. Their Animus AI trading platform runs 24/7, crushing old-school strategies and helping patriots like you build serious wealth just like the elites. It's been named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine. Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million of protection, and their clients are seeing returns as high as 250%. Whether you're a teacher, a trucker, retiree, doesn't matter. It's time to get involved. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you sign up right now. All you have to do is go to SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Find out more. Don't be left behind. Making retirement great again. SteveGruberCrypto.com. I'll be right back. Back into it. A lot to talk about. Spending, obviously, top of mind for me right now. Spending and terrorists in America, top of mind for me right now. The big, beautiful bill continues to continues to deliver on parts of Donald Trump's agenda, but it also fails to deliver on spending restraints. What about regulation? Can we get that under control? Maybe. I mean, there are good parts of this bill. Let's see what Phil Kerpen, the president of the American Commitment, has to say about it as he weighs in. He joins me now. Phil, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so spending, I'm not pleased at all with where we are on spending on this, but we'll get there. I think that people like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul and others will rein in the spending concerns here. But what about regulation? Regulation without representation is just as bad as, well, taxation without representation, in my estimation. So one of the things that Donald Trump did in his first term was to require that you got rid of a couple of regulations if you're going to add one. He's increased that allegedly here in the second administration, and I believe that he probably is working to have that happen. But where are we on it? What about regulation? What about your take on this big, beautiful bill?
Yeah, the president has upped that. In the first term, he had a rule that for every one new regulation, an agency had to get rid of 2 old ones. Now he's requiring 10 old regulations be removed for every one new one that's put in place, and he's been pretty aggressive. You know, the thing about deregulation of the way our process works right now is you can do a really good job of reversing all the regulations from the Obama administration as he did in his first term, but then you can have a Democrat come in as Biden did and bring them all back and then some. So we've got this problem where because all of these regulations and deregulations are being done inside the executive branch, they can kind of swing like a pendulum with the party in power, which is really bad for businesses to have the rules whipsaw back and forth and have a bunch of crazy regulations come on when the Democrats are in, go off when Trump is in, and then swing back and forth. So one of the things that would really fix that problem and would force much more accountability in Congress for all of this is this idea of the REINS Act, which is kind of the unfinished business from the Tea Party era. This is the bill that says major new regulations, the agency shouldn't be able to just impose it. Instead, it should have to send it up to Congress as a proposal, and it should require affirmative majorities in the House and Senate before it can take effect. And Steve, just to sort of understand how important this concept is, remember that even when Democrats controlled everything in Washington, you had Obama, Reid, and Pelosi, they couldn't get that cap and trade climate bill through. They barely got it through the House. They never even voted on it in the Senate, even though they had 60 Democratic senators at the time. But Obama said, hey, I have a pen and a phone, and he took about half the things in that bill, and he had the EPA do it anyway. And some of them eventually fell in court. Others are still in effect, and others Trump got rid of, and then, Biden brought back.
Well, some would argue, Phil, that the EPA was, created improperly. It was created by an executive order by Richard Nixon, the EPA. Think about that. An executive order created this monstrosity that wants to control every drop of water in America and every, little bit of particulate that comes off a campfire. My campfire. Next to my pond and my water, they want to regulate the whole damn thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. And of course, Trump can get rid of all these rules, but, if we don't get Congress to act, if we don't get the laws changed, then they can all snap back in the next Democratic administration. So there are some really good, first of all, give Congress a lot of credit for banning the California waiver that lets states ban internal combustion vehicles. That's a big deal. We're going to get a signing ceremony at the
I'll
White
give them
House
some
soon on
credit.
that one.
I'm not giving Congress big credit on much of anything until I see some big
we
action.
give them credit for actually passing a bill on that. They haven't passed
Fair
very
enough.
much.
Fair enough.
But there are other energy provisions in the big beautiful bill that are very, very important. So they permanently ban, for instance, electric vehicle mandates out of both the EPA and the Department of Transportation. So those can't just snap back with the next Democratic administration. But this process fix, this idea of the REINS Act, where any major regulation would have to go to Congress for approval, that's so important. And Jim Jordan did include it in the House version of the big beautiful bill in the Judiciary Committee title. They actually took it out at the last minute in the manager's amendment in the House, but they did that because they were scared that the Senate rules might take down the whole bill if it's included. But Senator Thune is trying to get it back in, is trying to get it to pass Senate muster with the parliamentarian. Senator Mike Lee is pushing very hard for that. So that is still an unresolved question whether they'll be able to include that or not. But if they can't include it in this bill, they've got to find some other way to get it passed before the end of Trump's administration so that the next time a Democrat's in, they can't just bring back all the
Right.
regulations.
And that's what we want. I mean, regulation should not be something that, some bureaucrat sitting in some office, in a side in a side hallway in Washington is able just to basically write because they've got some legal training, boom, or they're an attorney and they throw it in there because that's kind of how it works, right? Who reads these bills that are 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 pages? Nobody, as Nancy Pelosi aptly pointed out a number of years ago. So again, the REINS Act is in here, basically. But we're a long way from getting this bill.
It's technically out at the moment, but both the House and Senate want it in. So if they can figure out procedurally how to do it, it will be back in.
Right. And if it was not in, can it pass on its own? Can it stand up on its own not before the end of Donald Trump's time, before the midterms, because that's really the only time we have is now and a year from now.
Yeah, probably not, because if it were on its own, the Democrats would filibuster it. Look, there's only been one Senate Democrat who's ever supported this bill in the 15 years we've been trying to get it passed. It was Joe Manchin. He's not there anymore. Democrats, it's weird. They say they want to be senators, they want to be legislators, they want to write the laws, but they don't want to write the laws for the most important things that affect the economy. All of these regulations, they'd rather look the other way, have the bureaucrats and the regulators make all the important decisions. It's a problem. And so I think if we're ever going to get this done, it needs to be part of a bigger bill. And this is the best chance we've had in a long time. So we're really pushing hard for it.
Yeah. It's an important consideration. All right. Anything else that you've seen in the first 150 days, give or take, of this administration that you're pleased with or unpleased with? Last question.
Well, I think generally regulatory policy in the executive branch has been very, very good, and they've reversed a huge swath of what Biden did. The challenge is, making it all stick in court, because we've seen how crazy so many of the judges out there are, and trying to get these things made permanent by fixing the process in Congress. And I'd also really like to see my friend Casey Mulligan from the University of Chicago confirmed to be the regulatory czar at the Small Business Administration, one of the many Trump appointees that the Senate just hasn't gotten to yet. So they've got to pick up the pace on confirmations also.
Fair enough. Phil Kerpen, President of the American Commitment, thank you as always.
All right. Have a good one, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. There you have it. All right. So here's a little. I look at I keep coming back to this open border, the money we're spending, the inability to get spending under control, Republicans unable to control their own lust for money and power. Here's a headline. A Chinese student at the University of Michigan fled to China after being charged with illegal voting. More people in the country illegally. Illegal voting schemes, here it is. Other things impacting you as an American citizen being brushed under the carpet. A Chinese student at the University of Michigan fled to China after being charged with illegal voting in the 2024 election. I thought that didn't happen. I thought illegal voting didn't happen. Well, apparently it happens in Michigan. In October, while attending the university as a foreign national student, Housing Gao turned himself in after being registered to vote and casting a ballot in the general election in Michigan, charged with 2 felonies, false swearing to register to vote and trying to vote as an unqualified elector. I thought this didn't happen, folks. Well, here it is. Of course it happens, and in great numbers. Yeah, they're lying to you. After the break, let's talk about the economy with Nick Hopwood, shall we? It's straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. right, diving back into it now. The economy, look, in many regards seems pretty decent. All the losses of April have been recovered. I think they're all back now. We're in the positive in some areas. Gold is not going crazy. Gas is cheaper than it was. Things seem okay, but the fact of the matter is we continue to spend ourselves into oblivion, and that's my big concern. Nick Hopwood, certified financial planner at Peak Wealth Management, is joining me now. Nick, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Steve. And I agree with you. Sometimes I think of myself as a single issue voter, and sometimes I daydream about running for Congress on the single platform, read my lips, no new spending. What do you think?
Right, I like it. No spending. I mean, cut it. I mean, here we are. As it turns out, they didn't have to firebomb Tesla dealerships or attack Tesla owners or ridicule Elon Musk. The Republicans are going to fail all on their own. They didn't need to attack Elon Musk. The Republicans are going to fail to do what needs to be done all on their own. Where am I wrong?
Sadly, it's shaping up to look that way. I hope that you're wrong with that statement, but we'll see.
Yeah. Anyhow, new Roth conversion tools. How about that? How about Roth conversion tools? You can talk about saving people taxes. I don't know what our money's going to be worth if we continue down this road. That's my concern, Nick. Well, if you continue to spend yourself into oblivion, and if 10 years from now, it's $20 trillion in more debt, which would put us at almost $60 trillion of debt, which is what is being predicted, by the way, right now on this spending plan. What's your money worth? Anything?
Well, Steve, your listeners might get tired of me talking about Roth conversions, and I know that you don't trust Roth to be tax-free in the long run, but that's the way it is right now, so we have to go with it. Now, we've talked about doing Roth conversions, thinking about saving taxes this year and getting money into Roth. But what if we think about it as a cumulative lifetime tax? We've been doing some analyses with clients showing if they convert multi-years in a row, that they could save actually hundreds of thousands of dollars in their lifetime cumulative tax and have more money later and have more of that money passed to their kids tax-free. So these tools they're really fun and exciting.
Fun and exciting with Roth conversions and your host, Nick Hopwood. I like that, Nick. Show. You got a smile on your face, got some good stuff going out of that. And you can get free analysis, by the way, if you go to peakwm.com/Gruber, you can find out more. So here we are in this place where, look, 6 weeks ago they were saying that we were in doom and gloom territory, right? We were end of the road, worst year since 1932, I think they were saying. That didn't happen, did it? We've bounced back, right? We've bounced back. So then the question becomes, do you invest in the market? Do you max out your 401k? What do you do going forward? Where do you put your hard-earned money? You don't want lazy money. You always say that here. No lazy money. What do you say to people that felt pretty banged up by the middle of April, and now they're kind of looking back and going, okay, we got banged up, but we're okay. What do we do now?
Yeah, there's no question the beginning of April was a nightmare, but largely self-inflicted. And we've had that V-shaped recovery. It actually reminds me of March, April 2020, April, May of 2025 with that V-shaped recovery. May was up 5%. April was about, well, depending on which index you're looking at, slightly down or up. But now here we are in early June, fully recovered. The S&P's flat year to date. Other indexes like fixed income and international are looking very strong year to date. So most balanced portfolios are up. So in terms of what to do now, yes, I think you should be maxing out your 401k, but not all pre-tax. If you have that Roth option, consider it. And also consider funding a brokerage account, because that will be the key to early retirement or the key to managing your taxes in retirement. That same concept of cumulative lifetime tax.
Yeah, cumulative lifetime tax. I'm looking here at some of the notes that you sent me. Now, I didn't realize this had happened. Denmark raising the age of Social Security. So we're talking about 401ks or Roth IRAs or whatever it might be. We're talking about retirement, all of these different things, and how you protect yourself and have enough money to pay the bills and live a decent life in your golden years, if you will. Denmark raised the age of Social Security to 70. France did something similar 2 years ago. They rioted in the streets of Paris. Apparently, they do that a lot these days. Is that our destiny? Is that what's going to happen to us?
I think it is our destiny. And Denmark actually passed this law in 2006, and they tied it to the life expectancy. So now life expectancy is going up, and as a result, automatically the retirement age goes up. And like you say, France went from 62 to 64. And in the US, you can collect at 62, but you don't get your full retirement value until 67. And so I think that in the US, our ages will have to go up, or they'll have to raise taxes for Social Security, or they will have to cut the benefits. It's no different than, it's just math. It's no different than your own retirement plan. You have to save more, spend less, or work longer. That's all there is to it.
So, is Social Security going to be here in 10
Yes.
years?
Yes, in 10 years is when we reach the tipping point. And so when we model our Social Security for younger people, we model a 75% Social Security rate, meaning if your promised benefit right now is $1,000 a month, we put into your financial plan $750 a month. So we give you a 25% haircut based on the current math.
Okay, there you have it. Look, if you want some advice from a guy I trust, here he is. Look at him. Look at him. There he is. It's Nick Hopwood. You can find out more at peakwm.com/Gruber. peakwm.com/Gruber. Get a second opinion. You don't have to like, what you hear from the first guy, the second guy, the third guy. Get some opinions. Get some input. It's your future we're talking about here. Plan. Don't just go at it willy-nilly. Nick, thank you as always.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
peakwm.com/Gruber. Look, second opinion, free of charge. How do you beat that, right? I'll take a break and be right back. Hope your financial future is secure. looking at talking about the economy a little bit there. Kraft Heinz, another big investment into America. And this part is all good. The investment into America, whether it's Nippon investing in U.S. Steel like we talked about at the end of last week, or some of the other big investments coming in, Apple, and the investment into the energy sectors in America, all good. Well, here's Kraft Heinz, best known for ketchup, of course. $3 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing. Kraft Heinz will spend $3 billion on its U.S. manufacturing facilities, the company confirmed to Food Dive. It's the largest investment in its plants in decades. The president of Kraft Heinz North America Operations, Pedro Navia, said he planned investments that could add 3,500 jobs to the company that also makes Lunchables. Yeah, they make a lot of stuff. I wouldn't feed my kid Lunchables as a general rule. $400 million in a distribution center, DeKalb, Illinois. That would be 60 new jobs. As President Trump implements and pursues tariffs on various imports, the spending on Kraft Heinz U.S. factories could help it offset the impact of trade uncertainty. Tariffs factored into the company's decision to make the investment. So tariffs worked again. There it is. Tariffs worked again. The majority of the company's products sold are made domestically. Notably, the company's Maxwell House coffee brand faces tariffs on imported beans. We don't make coffee in America except in Kona, Hawaii. Kona, Hawaii cannot come anywhere near producing enough coffee to keep you and I satisfied. Now, when it comes to 1775coffee.com, by the way, is coffee we drink here. 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save on your coffee tomorrow morning. Don't forget that. Anyhow, the investments are great, and they continue to grow. And that is good news. That is what brings optimism. The spending concerning the investment and the expanding economy brings optimism. Oh, always so much to cover. Thank you for being here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now on the Steve Gruber Show. Another big hour. We've lit the fuse. It's going to explode right now, all right? 3 big things you need to know this hour as we fight for you from the foxhole of freedom. Number 1, the Supreme Court has punted again on gun control, allowing bans on AR-15s to stand, at least for now, in a couple of states. But it appears a bigger decision could be on the horizon. We will tell you why. Number 2, John Fetterman, the Democrat senator from Pennsylvania, is once again bucking his party and ripping how they handled the open border problems. They're trying to push him out. And number 3, terror warning. Terror warning to you, America. And the Democrats won't even acknowledge that you have an anti-Semitic rage mob out there willing to use violence, willing to kill people. They don't even care, apparently. And how do I know? Well, here just recently, Josh Shapiro, the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, had the mansion there firebombed by an anti-Semite in the middle of the night. Just a couple of weeks ago, 2 Jews were gunned down in Washington, D.C. outside the Jewish consulate after attending an event there. Why were they gunned down? Because they were Jewish. Sunday in Colorado, in Boulder, a terrorist from Egypt sets Americans on fire. Sets Americans on fire, and there's no outrage from the left. None. Where is the outrage? In fact, I want to start with bite number 6. Here's how stupid it is. Jamie Raskin, Democrat member of Congress, this guy. People are firebombed in America by an illegal alien from Egypt. What does Jamie Raskin talk about? Gun control. Gun control. That's what's outrageous. Listen to this.
Across the country, we are still in the midst of a gun violence epidemic. So we need to be acting with due concern for human life. I mean, this is why, of course, we have been fighting for a universal violent criminal background check. We're
shut up.
For
Stop.
a ban on
Stop.
military
Shut
style.
up. Shut him up. What an ass. What a complete ass. I'm sorry. What does an illegal alien creating Molotov cocktails, using gasoline and matches, and lighting American citizens on fire have to do with guns, you idiot? What a complete ass. I'd like to say stronger things. I am in my head, by the way. It's being censored. I mean, seriously? Meanwhile, the acting ICE director, Scott Lyons, boy, he popped a fuse, as he should. Why are your agents wearing masks when you arrest people? Why do your agents wear masks? Because you on the left are doxing our agents and putting their lives in danger. Listen to this.
Why do they wear masks?
I'm going to answer the mask question. So, no, not the mask, the mask. So, a lot of agencies were invited to come out 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles where we ran an operation where ICE officers were doxxed. So let's just say that again. People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. They are wearing those masks because we ran an operation with the Secret Service where we arrested someone that was going online, taking their photos, posting their families, their kids' Instagram, their kids' Facebooks, and targeting them. So let me ask, is that the issue here, that we're just upset about the masks? or is anyone upset with the fact that ICE officers' families were labeled terrorists?
They're on the wrong side of the issue every single time. We have terrorists attacking the governor's mansion in Philadelphia. We have terrorists murdering American citizens in the streets of Washington, D.C. We have terrorists setting American citizens on fire. And these people are worried that when we're taking illegals out of this country, they have a mask on so they can't be doxxed. Once again, proving that the news media is completely oblivious to what's happening. Meanwhile, back to Boulder, Colorado for a moment. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there is a massive terrorist attack coming in this country. I've been telling you this for a while, but I'm telling you now. What you've seen so far is child's play. There are so many terrorists in this country as a result of Joe Biden's open borders and the policies of the Democrats that gave him the auto pen to fire the country up and run it that way that we are in real danger. And a massive terrorist attack is coming, far worse than what we saw at the governor's mansion in Philadelphia, far worse than the two people gunned down and murdered in the streets of D.C., and far worse than Mohammed Soleimani setting Americans on fire in Boulder, Colorado. Something far worse is coming. Guaranteed. Because of the policies that have failed this nation. In fact, the Boulder terror attack suspect had planned a mass shooting, but was stopped from buying a gun because of his immigration status. He tried to buy guns to commit a mass shooting. Oh, and here's another headline. Michigan anti-Semite was also plotting to massacre kids at a Jewish daycare center. He tried to buy assault weapons as well and was denied the opportunity to buy guns. If you think these are the only two examples, you're crazy. There is an epic terrorist attack coming in America somewhere soon. And I lay that blame at the feet of those that allowed our borders to remain open. I lay the blame at the feet of those who turned a blind eye to our border. Because some of our fellow citizens are going to pay the ultimate price and are going to die. I'm sorry, folks, but that's a fact. The failed policies have led us here. This is an easy prediction. This is an easy prediction. These are all warm-up acts to something much more catastrophic. And I lay the blame squarely where it belongs at those that allowed this country to be invaded by illegals that were never vetted and then unleashed on all of us. I lay the blame where it belongs on those that supported open borders and sanctuary cities and turned a blind eye when terrorism was right in front of them every step of the way. Be vigilant, my friends. Be safe. And be mindful of what's coming. I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so America rose to world dominance, as you know, and then people feel like we're in a long decline now, and for good reason. They can see it. They can feel it. They can see the open borders and the people that are in Washington not doing anything they're elected to do, and yet working for re-election and taking your money and everything else. $36.2 trillion in debt. $36.21 trillion in debt and growing every moment. And Elon Musk threw his hands in the air and said, I can't do anything more here. Anton Chaikin is a historian and author of Who We Are, America's Fight for Universal Progress from Franklin to Kennedy, Volume 2, the 1830s to the 1890s. Welcome to the program, Anton. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve. It's very good to be with you.
Glad to have you here. Look, in looking through this story, in your background, I found something that I found fascinating. And that is a comment you put here, the Republic versus the Empire. Who promoted the rise, by what strategy, and who has opposed this nation's progress, and for what reasons? And it's a bigger question I wouldn't mind exploring with you for a couple of minutes here, because, look, America worked well, very well, for a long time, and then things started happening. Things like we got rid of the 17th Amendment, got rid of direct, or brought in direct election of senators, which I think was a terrible mistake. We brought in federal income taxes. We brought in a national a bank, the Fed. Both those things happened in 1913, all around the same time. What happened? How did we jump the tracks when we were doing so well for so long?
Well, I think what Donald Trump was running on in 2016, two things that panicked the unelected globalists that have been dominating our country. First of all, to stop the wars, which generate chaos. They need the chaos to stay in power. And the other was tariffs. He proposed to restore our industry by imposing tariffs. And this points to an explosive history that tells how we rose to great power as a country and world influence, and where we went off the track. This is what's in my book. They have lied about this history, and patriots and truth seekers are entitled to know this history. After the assassinations of the 1960s, the globalists took down American industry, and they substituted the imperial system, now called the globalist system, of cheap labor and constant war. They need the chaos of terrorism, the chaos of people, desperate people spilling across our borders. But what we need, and what made us successful, was the economic nationalism. Lincoln was an economic nationalist. This was headquartered in Philadelphia, led by Lincoln's economic advisor, Henry Carey. And Lincoln put through a number of programs. First of all, high tariffs to protect the new industries, credit and currency programs and educational programs, different from the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not a national bank. It's a central bank in a system, international system. And these programs Lincoln's programs led to amazing growth and new industries. His allies in Philadelphia, this is in my book, who actually built these things, people who believe in progress. They built the steel industry, they sponsored the electrical industry, they built
all of it,
petroleum industry, all of this.
Right.
And we're entitled to those things and to that world leadership. That's a way of life. And the people in our best leaders' estimation, the people are entitled to have a government that promotes their own interests and their own progress.
That would be nice. We don't have that. You know, I don't have a lot of time today, and I've quickly figured out that you and I have to have a much longer conversation to dig deeply into all this, because we're getting to the foundation here. But I want to ask you one thing. We've only got a couple minutes left here, sadly, but I want to have you back, and I want to have you back when we can get you on the podcast and talk at length about all these things, because it's important for people to understand these things. I was asked recently when I believed America changed forever and not for the better. And the date that I keep coming back to is November the 22nd, 1963, because to me, the undermining of America post-World War II began in earnest in about 1965. And that was opened up by the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I just don't see any other way around it. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. That's a very clear turning point in our history. We're entitled to have our presidents elected and not murdered by the historical enemies of our country. We certainly would need a national commission to look into the triple murders of the Kennedy brothers and Dr. King. But the transition was brought on by this transatlantic establishment that has been at our throats and tried to stop the progress of the country since they were the Tories in the American Revolution. That's the history. That's the problem. And our side has been the economic nationalists. They are the real progressives of the country. Forget the distortion of that word.
Right.
So what Trump is pointing to, I don't know that he's accomplished it, but the idea and the movement of people with demanding the right to progress would also say that every other country has that same right. And the globalists have no right to set rules for us or any other country that you can't
And that's what Donald Trump says. He says every other country should be putting themselves first as well. He says that exact thing.
Exactly right. And that's what we helped Germany, Japan, and Russia to rise to an industrial power. British turned us against them.
I got to leave it there, Anton. You and I need to speak at much greater length. I apologize for that, but I will have you back. Anti-Chaitkin, historian, author,
Chaikin.
who we are. Say it again.
Chaitkin, Anton Chaitkin.
There you go.
Gruber. Thank you.
We'll do it again. You know, I could have a conversation with that gentleman for a long time. Yeah, I was asked that question recently. When did America's undermining begin? And the only place I can find the definitive point is the assassination of John Kennedy. That's the definitive point in American history where everything changed, in my estimation. You ended up with immigration bills in 1965 that took us away from immigrants from Europe and started importing people from third world countries, all sorts. I'm not, oh, you're a racist, Gruber. No, I'm talking about where we were bringing our people in from, uneducated, unvetted, which they accelerated during the last 4 years of the Biden administration. Import the third world, become the third world. Sorry, but that's fact. The welfare state amplified the Great Society. You know, please. Poverty has not changed dramatically in our lifetime. It was about 12% then. About 12% now. It just shifted from the elderly to the young. But it doesn't dramatically change. And now, I mean, you look at the great cities of America, San Francisco, Chicago, they're rat holes. You can't argue about this. Go look. The undermining of our infrastructure, the crumbling bridges, the cities that are filled with garbage, junkies. It's really not up for discussion. Anyhow, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back. We're going to talk about Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency and what can be done to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon after the break. All right, back to it now. A lot of conversations. Apparently, the Trump administration putting forth a proposal to Iran to allow low-level nuclear enrichment to occur to, I suppose, to fuel a nuclear power future. Seems dangerous to me, but that's where we are, and apparently that's what they're considering as we speak. Dr. Ramesh Separad is an Iranian-American scholar, cybersecurity executive, joining me now. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So you believe that the mullahs, the regime in Tehran is lying to us, gaslighting us, telling us, oh yeah, everything's fine, we haven't done much here, nothing to see here, look over there. Basically, that's what you're telling me, isn't it?
That's exactly it. We've seen this playbook. We've seen this charade for more than one administration. Excuse me. Over the last several decades, this is not a regime that wants a deal. This is a regime that wants a bomb. And I was very happy to see in the news earlier this morning that President Trump is saying that Iran will not have enrichment rights, because I think if we do allow them enrichments based on the studies and the research that I've done and monitored the news, it clearly shows that this regime is heading towards a bomb, and we simply cannot have that in the Middle East.
Correct. I worry about some other countries that already have the bomb and, the wrong people getting in control of those weapons. That concerns me today. So why would we allow a country that we certainly don't trust to become nuclear capable? What do you think has to be done here? The National Council of Resistance of Iran says that there is vindication in this. And that's basically, if you will, the government in exile, the NCRI, right? That's a fair way to put it, correct?
Yeah, they consider themselves as a parliament in exile, which I think they have earned that badge because of their support and popularity, not only among the diaspora, but also, more importantly, inside Iran, having endured more than 4 decades of oppression and the persecution and even terror plots against them abroad. This is an parliament in exile that has a 10-point plan, that has a platform for a free, non-nuclear, secular Iran, and really does offer an alternative to what we're dealing with right now in the Middle East. Steve, I'm looking at what's happening also in U.S. Congress. More than 225 members of Congress, an absolute majority and bipartisan voice, that are in fact supporting the message of the president-elect of this very council, Maryam Rajabi, who has put forward what is called as a Jeffersonian future and a vision of Iran. So I think once we have a message from the U.S. Congress in a bipartisan way, there's clearly a very strong foundation to have the right policy from U.S. in order to support the people of Iran and recognize their rights to overthrow this regime and really bring about a democracy and a freedom that that country deserves and have been fighting for several decades now.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with different experts, including people from NCRI, your colleagues, but others that watch this as well. They believe, you believe, as an organization, and they believe that the Iranian government is at its weakest point since 1979 today, that has been diminished in a variety of ways. What would you say to that? And this nuclear portion of it, if they're a weakened nation that is more desperate, then I would suggest nuclear weapons in the hands of this regime would be far more dangerous than it would have been even just 10 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong, because maybe they've always been a danger, but the fact of the matter is they're weakened now, aren't they?
They're definitely much more weak than ever before. They are desperate, and that's why, one of the indication as a political scientist I can offer you is their desperation can be seen in the rise of execution inside Iran. If this regime was legitimate, if this regime was strong, it wouldn't be executing this many protesters that were arrested. It wouldn't be arresting this many people. If you look at what's happening in Iran today, over 12 days, we have a nationwide strike across 155 cities, across all of Iran's provinces, by the truck drivers. This is the economic lifeline of Iran. It's in the hands of the truck drivers, but the truck drivers are making a conscious decision by using their truck as a weapon against this regime and striking with a clear message. And it's an indication of how the people of Iran are actually reaching a point where they are going to be overthrowing this regime. Taxi drivers are joining them. And even a few weeks ago, the Iranian bread makers, the people who were, bread is a very popular item on Iran's household. They went on strike. These are all signals. If you put them all together, these are all signals that stand on more than 7 rounds of nationwide uprising that clearly demonstrate how weak this regime is and clearly demonstrate how Iranian people are rejecting this regime and really are striving for a democratic Iran. You could see it in their slogans, you could see it in the clips and the messages that they're sending out. One of the clear messages that they send out, which I think is quite fascinating, is the fact that they say, down with the dictators, be it the Shah or the mullahs. What's really embedded in that message is the rejection of the monarchy of the past, which in fact the regime's intelligence ministry is trying to prop up as the false alternative in order to give itself a little bit more lifeline, as well as the current theocracy. Regime is very sophisticated in manipulating the political message of what's coming from Iran, but it is the slogan of the Iranian people that really clarifies that message for us, which I think we should really pay close attention to. And I'm very, very happy to see majority of the U.S. House of Representatives through the House Resolution 166 calls for recognition of that voice, recognition of overthrowing this regime by the Iranian people.
There you have it. Dr. Gott, greatly appreciate you being here. I know that the NCRI meeting in Paris in, a week or two now, to discuss the future, as you often do. And I wish you well in finding a way to take charge of Iran again. That'd be the best possible outcome. Greatly appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Well, the Wellness Company is looking to take control of your health because the Wellness Company, they offer doctor-formulated supplements and personalized care to boost your wellness. Whether it's immune support, heart health, or just feeling your best every day, they've got you covered. Become a member today. Enjoy exclusive access to expert consultations, premium products, health content. If you're ready to start, visit twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. The Wellness Company, the best supplements, your health, your way. twc.health/Gruber. Go there today and order. twc.health/Gruber. All right. We'll take a break. I do appreciate you being here today, as always. See here, I got to mark that down. Appreciate it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show after this. Welcome back to the program. Glad you're here for the conversation. Look, the next conversation I'm going to have is with a guy who spent time in prison for theft. He's a thief. That's what his trade is. He's out of that business. Now he's a retired thief. How about that? So when we talk about things on this program, I give you actual examples. So when people say, well, this is not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal. Home title theft is a big deal. Where's your title? Do you know? I ask people that, and they're like, I don't know. And they don't take it seriously, and they should. Matt Cox is a spokesman for Home Title Lock. He's an educator, and like I said, a former home title thief, a guy that would go steal from the people that couldn't defend themselves. He stole from old folks, people that were indigent. He had no shame, and I know because he's told me so. Matt, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, when you'd steal, you were indiscriminate. You didn't care, right? I mean, that's what you told. I'm not trying to paint you as a bad guy. I think you're reformed now, but at the time, you didn't care, did you?
No, I wasn't concerned about, the shark isn't concerned about his prey,
Yeah, yeah.
So
they don't care about what they're eating. They're just eating. So let's get inside the mind of a master thief like yourself. You'd focus on a target. Did you develop it over a day, a week? How did you find your targets? How did it work?
Well, I was more concerned about the home, the house, right? So I don't necessarily know who owns the house initially. I might meet those people. I would meet them if I rented the house, or maybe you'd meet them if you're buying the house. But in many cases, I didn't know the people that lived there at all. It's irrelevant to me who those people are. Drive by a house, I see the house, it's in good shape. I would go to public records, look up who owns that house. It's just a name to me. I transfer the title out of the true owner's name into a synthetic identity name or a stolen identity's name, and then I would possibly sell the house or refinance a loan on the house. If there was already a mortgage on the house, I would satisfy that mortgage.
How much money could you make? If you go and you target somebody, how much money could you make?
One time, one house in particular, I borrowed. Keep in mind, the house was only worth a few $100,000. I borrowed, I want to say, 5 mortgages on it. It was almost $1 million I borrowed on that one house. But I would be doing this all the time. So I had a scam in South Carolina where I borrowed $1.3 million on a couple of houses. So this is pretty it was not that it was very lucrative, but it sounds difficult, but it's really just paperwork.
Just paperwork and filling in the blank. Let me ask you this. Did you have a preferred, you talk about the house you got $1 million out of, a couple of houses in South Carolina you got a $1.3 million out of. Is there a preferred type of house you would look at? I mean, would you go through a neighborhood and say, I like that one? And what would attract you to a target?
If the house was in good shape. So if you could live in the house, that house is a perfect house for me. I wasn't necessarily looking for houses that were in distress. It's really more, is it a middle-class home? If it's a middle-class home or an upper-middle-class home or lower middle-class, in that range where the bank is willing to lend money on it or someone wants to purchase that home. So the house that you're currently living in would be a great house. That's the problem, is people think, oh, it's got to be abandoned or it has to be. No, that's not, in my particular scam, that's not the case. In some people, sure.
Well, I was actually thinking, Matt, that maybe it was fancy upscale houses, and maybe you target those on occasion, but it's not that either, is it?
No. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's in some cases, if it's too expensive, it might be difficult to get a mortgage on, or, sometimes you need access to the house. Really depends on what the scam is, and the scams are slightly different every time.
Yeah, and so you're reformed now. You're a reformed thief. You stop targeting people, as they say. You got an honest job, I suppose, Matt. You got an honest job representing Home Title Lock, and now you tell people, "Hey, look at this. It's a real deal. I did it." And how long did you spend in prison?
Nearly 13 years.
A long time. I mean, so when you got jammed up for a whole bunch of houses you stole. When you got hooked up with Home Title Lock, why does it make a difference? I mean, honestly, for people, because people are like, I'm all right. I'm not worried about that. Why should they be worried? And what does Home Title Lock do that you've learned that would have prevented you from doing what you did back then?
Well, it does two things. It one notifies the the homeowner when I'm in the middle of the scam. So the great thing for a title thief is that I can do these things. I could steal your title to your home and borrow money or sell the house or do whatever I wanted to do with the house. And you wouldn't be notified until months later, until maybe a bank's foreclosing on you or someone's moving into your rental property. And then you find out that this has happened. The great thing about Home Title Lock is they notify you the moment something has changed on your title. They contact you, they say, hey, did you sell your house? Did you pay off your mortgage? Did you, whatever the scam is, they notify you. So now you've got the ability to contact law enforcement, to contact an attorney, to stop this and possibly catch the thief in mid scam. So for someone like me, it's a nightmare. The other thing they do is any damage that I've done to the house, they're willing to hire an attorney and they will correct that damage for you. So
yeah,
simply
up to
being
$1 million.
doesn't
Up to $1 million, what they'll do with their
$1 million.
Yeah, their $1 million triple lock protection program. By the way, folks, I've hooked up with Home Title Lock. That's why Matt's here to explain the fact that this happened. He spent 13 years in prison for doing this exact thing. When you hook up with Home Title Lock, you get 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts if there are any changes with your title. If fraud should occur, just like he just said, their American-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud, restore your title at no additional cost. And here's the best part. They'll give you a free title history. Look, I never looked for my title until I got a plan with Home Title Lock. That's worth $250 just for signing up. Go to HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save money right now. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. Matt, I appreciate you sharing your experience here. I really think it helps, and I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, HometitleLock.com. It's a real deal. That's why he was in prison for 13 years. Protect yourself. It's a little bit of money for a lot of peace of mind. It's the Steve Gruber Show.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Only 7 games in Major League Baseball yesterday. American League winners were Detroit, Minnesota, and the LA Angels. National League winners were the New York Mets, Milwaukee, Colorado, and San Diego. The Women's College Softball World Series finals are now set in Oklahoma City. Texas defeated Tennessee 2-0 during the day to advance, and then Texas Tech upset 4-time defending national champ Oklahoma 3-2 to move on to the finals, which will begin tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. The last 6 spots in the NCAA Baseball Super Regionals were filled last night. North Carolina, Oregon State, LSU, Tennessee, Miami of Florida, and Murray State won winner-take-all regional final games. And at the French Open, American Jessica Pegula was upset by unseeded Frenchwoman Lois Boisson in the 4th round in 3 sets. Coco Gauff, Madison Keys, Novak Djokovic, and Jannik Sinner all won. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Well, look, guys, the spending in America, as you've noticed throughout this program, is my concern. I think what Donald Trump is doing is fabulous. We've got investments coming in, trillions of dollars of investments. You know, Indian companies, Japanese companies, German companies, American companies coming home. And that is all terrific. But if we don't cut the spending, if we don't clean up this act, well, there's real trouble coming then, isn't there? Real trouble coming for us at that point if we, you know, that's what I look at every single day. The spending, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 trillion and counting. That's the real danger that we face. We need to clean up our act. We need to clean up our act. No question about it. Anyhow, we'll take a break. We're going to get tuned back up and continue to talk about the things that impact you the most right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Follow us on Twitter, X, of course, Instagram, Truth Social, and all the rest. Back in a moment.